Good evening. I call this meeting of the Lake Country Classical Academy Board to order at 6:04 p.m. on Tuesday, November 14th. A notice of this meeting ran actually this past Saturday, right? I'm not sure what the date, past Friday. Do you know what the date was? We can look at that up. Yep.
10th.
The 10th. So you can put that in the minutes that it ran on the 10th, and it was also posted at both school locations and on the LCCA website. Let the roll call show this evening that all LCCA board members are present except for Brian Hastings, and Tom Brannigan is attending remotely. Please join me in, and actually before we do that, we're going to read the LCCA mission. So our mission is to train the minds and improve the hearts of young people through a content-rich classical education in the liberal arts and sciences with instructions in the principles of moral character and civic virtue. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so everyone has received an agenda for tonight's meeting. We need to go ahead and make a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second? I'll second it. Okay. Any discussion? Everything looks good? Tom? We'll just unmute. Okay. Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve tonight's meeting agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. Okay, moving on to Citizens Forum, and actually I don't believe we have anyone tonight that's going to be speaking, so we will move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. And would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it. Okay. Any discussion? I would just say that I did remove, just because Brian's not here, our treasurer is not in attendance tonight, I did remove the treasurer's report this evening. He will report on both financials, the liquidity, etc. that he normally does at our December meeting, combining both, I guess it would be the October and November, right? And then also, I also do not have a president's report tonight, so I took that out. So, all in favor of approving tonight's consent agenda, say aye. 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 Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. So the first item up is the meeting minutes from October 25th. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Does everything look okay? Okay. All right. Then in that case, we are good with the minutes from October 25th, which are in board docs. And on to the school leader report. Margaret.
Thank you. This month's report is relatively light compared to last month's report, but I did want to start with the celebration of Historical Figure Day. It's the first time we held that themed dress day at both campuses, and it was really well received. The students dressed up as a significant person from history who had a positive impact on America, and both campuses had a variety of different historical figures in the halls and in the classrooms that day, and a lot of fun was had by all. I also want to draw your attention to I've included this month some standardized test agenda, standardized test data, I should say, in the chart that sort of gives us a sense of the authorizer performance measures that we will be held accountable to this year. And I'll speak about those statistics later in my report. But if you move on to page 3, you'll see Our enrollment holds steady at 552, same as last month. And we have had some inquiries about open seats and availabilities. Mrs. Knapp has been giving some tours to interested families, and we continue to pursue students who might fill some of our open seats as well as add to our wait list. As far as faculty and staff, I'm pursuing a Director of Advancement and Donor Relations. We'll post that position hopefully by early December. That position will be a necessity for us as we pursue funding for One Campus, as well as planning gala for this year and future years. We're also looking for a potential business office assistant. That position will also go on Indeed and be posted in early December. As you know, we had business office personnel depart earlier in this school year, and so we're looking to backfill that position. The facilities assistant position was removed and reposted on Indeed, but still has no interested candidates. I want to draw your attention to the professional development that is taking place this month. There is an article by Joshua Gibbs that I've purchased the licensure rights to for this school year, and all of the faculty read that article, and in our separate division meetings, so by East Campus and by West Campus, we had discussion about it. Its focus was an introduction to classical education specific to charter schools, and it's always a great opportunity for teachers to refresh and recommit to mission with further understanding of classical education and our role as a classical charter school. Then tomorrow we meet as a full faculty all together, and that meeting will be focused on professional development as well. We'll spend a short amount of time reviewing the best practice of questioning, how to ask questions and facilitate discussion within instruction by using well-planned questions. And then we will also have breakout sessions for book conversation, because as a faculty, we are reading All Quiet on the Western Front, which is one of the books that our 8th graders read. And we'll break out and have conversation on chapters 1 through 5 of that novel as well. And we focus our conversation on the beauty of the novel, but also on instructional strategies that would be considered high quality and classical in potentially teaching it. So taking that idea of how do we ask good questions to facilitate conversation within the classroom, and then discussing how would we look through that lens at this book, chapters 1 through 5. So that's taking place tomorrow night. Moving on to my financial report. We heard from our audit company just today that they are wrapping up the audit and submitting it for review to the partners of RPB. So we'll likely be hearing from them very soon once the partners approve and finalize that report for us. Also, I know last month I had just hired a marketing and communications manager, and she did start and has hit the ground running and is helping us with the annual Day of Giving campaign that's happening this month, as well as she's already involved in the planning of our upcoming enrollment events as we enter enrollment season, and she's looking to utilize and improve our use of social media for communication and marketing, etc., to the public. So we're glad to have her. And if you reviewed the income statement this month, you'll notice that we did receive our first claim of the charter grant. We also received the William S. Knight Foundation matching gift, so that is on the income statement as well. We also received revenue from ESSER 3 for the 22-23 school year. And you'll notice on the income statement our purchase services expenses were mostly janitorial costs and facilities costs. It's important to note that the bank reconciliation report continues to be reconciled. We're meeting a little earlier, and and the difference, the time frame between last month and this month's meeting was a little tight. So as soon as it's completely reconciled, we will upload that final report to the financial SharePoint for your review. Most of the deposits were donations and grant revenue, as I already mentioned, and many of the checks processed in October were to pay for the supplies and the textbooks that were purchased over the summer and additional facilities costs as well. You'll notice in the budget versus actual report that the final budget approved last month has been uploaded and is reflected in this report. The revenue categories are trending as to be expected in this first quarter. Our salaries are at 20.8% of the budgeted amount, which is to be expected. Our rent expenses are trending as expected for the first quarter. Our payments to CISA 5 and CISA 1 are on track. And it's important to note that the purchasing of textbooks and workbooks will slow down now that we are in the second quarter of the school year, and most of those invoices have come and hit the accounts. Moving on to page 6 of your report. Just released today was the school and district report cards for the 22-23 school year, and I'm very pleased and proud to comment that LCCA earned 4 stars or exceeds expectation on our Wisconsin State DPI report card. We're thrilled with that rating and that recognition. Communication went out to all families today. I forwarded that to you as well in case you didn't have a chance to check your email, but it's something to celebrate and something to be proud of. I've communicated to faculty and staff as well, whether they were here in year 1 or just new to us this year. It's worth recognizing our shared commitment to mission, our perseverance, our hard work, all of the things that every corner of the community has contributed, has allowed us to reach that standing and achieve that rating. So the website, if you're interested in looking and learning more about the school report cards from the DPI, is linked in that announcement that I shared to the community and to you. Additionally, I've included some standardized test results for your review. The 22-23 forward exam is given to 3rd through 8th grade students, with also some tests administered to 10th grade students. And you can see our ELA, our math, our science, and our social studies scores as they relate to the state as well as K through 12 districts in Waukesha County. I've also included the 22-23 pre-ACT secure results, which that assessment is given to 9th and 10th grade students, and you can see state results, our results, and the Waukesha County K-12 district results. As we continue to have a deep dive into the data, and as you saw on the first page of my report in the performance measure statements from our authorizer, I'm looking into and discussing with our authorizer what the language of that performance measure actually specifies. I've listed our results, Waukesha County results, and state results for both ELA assessment and math assessments, but the language of the measure refers to the average of the percent in all Waukesha County school districts and the state. So are we supposed to average the Waukesha County data and the state data and compare ourselves to it, or are we individually comparing our results to the average of Waukesha County and then to the average of the state? And all of that is still, we're working that out. So thankfully we have until next year when these performance measures are applied to really get a handle on the data. It's important to note that our state assessment data is a combination of the forward exam as well as the pre-ACT secure. This year it will be the forward exam, the pre-ACT secure, and the ACT, which 11th graders will take. And if you look at our ACT, pre-ACT secure data, which I did not include for you in my report, but I've given you an additional handout, just a quick photocopy of a chart. you'll see that we outperformed the K-12 Waukesha districts and the state by grade level in both math and ELA. That is taken into account, but the other data that is not represented when looking at percentages of proficient and advanced is the percentage of students that did not take the test. So we had 11% of our 9th and 10th grade students not take the test. So that counts against us when the state is looking at 100% of our enrollment. So without those 11%, our best case scenario, we could have only had 89.7% of students scoring proficient or advanced. So I need to, and we're thinking on how to best communicate to the parent community that taking the test is most advantageous to the authenticity of the data for the school community as a whole and in comparison to neighboring districts and the state on the whole. So it's interesting as we're really getting into studying the numbers, and as I learn more and discern more, I'll continue to share that with you, kind of update and clarify how the performance measures will be applied at the end of this year to all of the state assessments that the students take this year. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. The last piece of data in that standardized test results section is the results for the FastBridge math and reading assessment. This is an assessment we give to kindergarten through 6th grade. It's internal. It is not state required or included in any of the benchmarks where state assessment is referenced. But we use this to help us identify students in need of extra support, students in need of RTI. We're also looking to compare year over year. So I've included for you the 2022 fall FastBridge results as well as the most recent results from the past month. And you can see that in 2022, our kindergarten through 6th grade, 89.6% of students were greater than the 30th percentile as a national norm in math, and this year we're at 93%. And in reading last year, we had 86.2% of students achieving greater than the 30th percentile, and this year we had 90%. So we are trending up, and we're glad to see that positive growth utilizing the FastBridge assessment system. Oh, that was a lot of numbers. Moving on to the athletics and enrichment. We do have confirmation from the WIA of a successful second fall season in our probationary status as we work to become a full member of the WIAA. Both the girls and boys basketball coaches have hosted informational meetings, and actually the boys basketball team kicked off their season with practices starting last night, and they were in the gym again tonight. And so we're looking forward to getting a second winter season on the books as well. There were lots of special events this year. I think I neglected to tell you last month that we had a Hillsdale College counselor on campus, visited and spoke to 10th and 11th graders, and commented to our college counselor that this was the best school visit of his Midwest tour, so we were pleased to have that compliment. We also had a dog sled team visit here at West, a connection to Called the Wild, which is the literature novel that 7th graders are reading right now. So there was a presentation to the 7th graders from a team that races as a dog sled, winter dog sled team. And we had very successful Veterans Day assemblies at both campuses, music from our choral department, as well as guest speakers who spoke to the students. And then on the last page in family engagement, you can see that concurrent to our meeting right now, actually starting in just a few minutes at 6:30 over at East, there's a parent event. Mr. Wagner and Dr. Wozniak are hosting parents who have also read that article that I referenced earlier. I did push that out to parents with an invitation to come for discussion, and we had 12 people RSVP that they would attend, so they'll be having a kind of a roundtable conversation about that classical education article this evening. All of the required documents have been uploaded to our authorizer's shared site, and we'll be meeting for our quarterly touch point early in December. The other update to note is that, as I mentioned, the annual Day of Giving campaign kicks off shortly. Campaign letters were put in the mail yesterday to both current families and community members that have donated in the past. We're looking to coordinate with the National Day of Giving and run a successful campaign specified and specific to science equipment is the area where we will designate the funds to kind of build our science department and get some other equipment that certainly in the upper school, our higher level sciences, chemistry, physics, biology need some additional equipment, but also some consumable things that teachers in the elementary grades can use to run experiments and provide hands-on activities within their science instruction as well. So we're looking forward to the response from donors and families to contribute to within that campaign. I have a couple other action items that I think come up later in the agenda, so I'll hold my additional comments on a one campus update and lease extension needs until those arise. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to you and the entire team, right?
Yes, thank you.
I wish Tom was here because he would be shouting and jumping up and down. So we probably should do that. No, that's really great news. So congratulations to everyone. That's big time.
Yeah,
really great.
Thank you.
So I just had a couple quick questions, and then if anyone else does too. And one of the questions that when you sent the report out, some people were wondering what is an advancement in donor relations officer?
Oh,
If you can just explain, because it's kind of a term that, I used to call it development manager, and so it's kind of.
yes. So it did use, most K-12 institutions, certainly in the private sector, did used to refer to it as development officer, director of development. And in a nutshell, it is the employee who will oversee fundraising campaigns and marketing to donors, not just marketing of institution to potential families who might enroll students, but marketing to donors and seeking out opportunities where we might raise funds to supplement our operating budget in addition to our per pupil revenue, but also specific to any capital campaigns that we might need to run. So if we're going to run a capital campaign in conjunction with our One Campus project, an advancement officer would be an advantageous employee to have. There is software as well that sort of oversees and keeps donation and donor data, and we would really like to move forward in acquiring that. It is already in the budget, but we have not done that yet because we don't currently have the personnel to manage that and really get it up and off the ground to its fullest capabilities. So as we continue to grow and look to expand, someone who can be the chief person to oversee fundraising is a necessity that would be beneficial to our team.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, thank you for that explanation. Just one other thing to note, when you were talking about the Day of Giving and the fall campaign, I think you mentioned the $25,000 matching gift.
I did not.
I just think it's
You're
important that we have that.
Yes.
That everyone realizes that we have a very generous anonymous donor that is willing to give us up to $25,000, dollar for dollar matching any gifts that come in to pay for science equipment. So that's something that we're promoting during the campaign because we have really no science equipment yet. So as we are a new school, we need to realize our full potential that way, and I'm hoping that everyone is able to give what they can, so.
Very good, thank you for
Yeah,
adding that.
absolutely. Any other questions? Okay. Tom? You have any questions, Tom? I guess not?
You know, I'm taking it all in also. Excuse me, sounds good. Good.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so then we are heading on to, we have a special guest this evening, actually, if you want to come on up. Sarah Hackett is the director of the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools, or WORKS for short. They are, it's actually at CISA 9, correct? And you work in tandem, I'll let you explain it a little bit better, but she's essentially working with our authorizer, the Waukesha County Executive, and helping to provide the back office duties. So she has come tonight to meet us and explain a little bit about her work, and so thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools is a funded resource through a state and federal grant that we get to help schools when they're first at their early stages. And Christina and I had worked together years ago, and then support governance boards with all of their work, school leaders, and authorizers. And so for you, that's Waukesha County. And so because they were new, they actually added, in addition to the sort of funded support I can give them, they were like, but we want extra support because we're new. So they bought even more days of our time to just make sure that they really have all the processes in place. And so I'm trying to work really closely to help them just kind of set up, okay, like what questions do you need to ask along the way, and what forms should the school be filling out, and you know, how do they confidently know that the school is successful? Like what should they be looking for, and what should they be, how should that relationship look? So I'm trying to just kind of coach on both sides and be here for anybody who asks questions. And so they're your authorizer, they make all the decisions. I'm here to just kind of give them like some structures and processes in order to set them up and do their work really well. And that's the same as how I work with governance boards and school leaders too, is like, I say, well, I can't, I'm not gonna run your meetings for you, but like, here's a list of everything that should be included in an agenda or a sample agenda. And I know that you guys actually have gotten a lot of support from Hillsdale too. And so like your board early on did all their training for the most part. Well, you attended a lot of our workshops too, but has everybody on your current board also been trained by Hillsdale? Like, do you do an annual conference and stuff? Or?
Yeah, anyone who's new, and actually ironically tomorrow, we're
Yeah,
leaving for
perfect.
Hillsdale, we're going tomorrow.
Oh, good.
So,
Yeah.
Hillsdale offers board training twice a year,
Okay.
and it can be for any new school, or I'm sorry, any new board members, they
yeah.
need to attend at least once. That's kind of like, that's a rule we put in place.
Yeah.
But you can really go as often as you like.
Yeah.
And so I've gone quite a few times
Yeah.
because honestly, you learn something new every time you go, and then networking, because there's a network of schools that you can learn from them, and they're at different stages of development, so it's really helpful to be able to ask questions and understand, what did you do about this, and that kind of thing. So it's really,
It's so cool.
it's very, very helpful.
Awesome, good, yes, and so most of our charter schools in the state aren't part of the Hillsdale College Network, and so they don't get the benefit of that, and so that's where my office has kind of come in, because so many charter schools have these governance boards and people who've been on for a month and say, what is this thing I just signed up for, and so it's good to be able to provide all that. So I'm going to hand out a few things to you all tonight to just show you some of the stuff that our office is offering right now. So one sheet, I can just kind of pass it down. One sheet is our board responsibilities, and so it should mirror a lot of the stuff that you'll work on with the Hillsdale College retreat this week too, of like, these are the kinds of things that you need to be doing as a board in order to really understand how to fulfill that role. And really what the role is that you want to confidently say that everything that's in that contract with Waukesha County is happening. So if you say we're going to be this kind of school with this many kids, and Margaret just did a great job sort of going through a lot of the stuff that's in that contract. Here's how we're doing on our data, here's how we're doing on these goals and stuff. And so at any time as a board member, if you get approached at the grocery store or when you sit here at these meetings, you need to be able to say like, yep, this is how we're doing, you know, and so that's kind of, you want that confidence because you as the board have signed the contract with the county saying that this is what you'll implement, and so you wanna make sure that, you know, when it comes time to renew it with them, you know, you can sort of confidently vouch for that they should renew it, so. Okay, so that's the first handout. The second handout, I'm working on revising this, but it's like a little packet, so you can take the whole packet. And then what it does is it sort of outlines, here's all the things that we really coach, like the authorizers on, here's everything, all the topics that we coach the governance boards on and the school leaders. So if we have a brand new school leader who doesn't understand sort of the business office side of things, or they don't understand fully the curriculum side of things, or the culture building side of things, or the parent engagement, right? There's so many different topics that Margaret has to be like an expert in, and so like, it's hard to find superhumans who have all of those skills fully developed and ready to rock. So, you know, it's good to just have a little bit of a guide, and then we have resources for all that. We have courses and network meetings and all kinds of stuff that's just available for you all to learn. So I mentioned the network meetings. We have like groups that we do a conference every year, and then a couple of things that I think will be of more interest to the larger group too, is that we have some resources that are really just like, what is a charter school? Or if you're a parent trying to find a school for your child, what questions should you be asking? If you go do a school tour, what sorts of things should you be looking for? And so we have some of those more like public facing things, and I welcome you all to take them and use them as much, like even edit them to make them your own and take, you know, copy and paste stuff right into your own documents in your own website, so that you can continuously help educate the community, just because I mean, Wisconsin school choice navigation is complicated, and you know, there's charter schools that are in districts, there's charter schools that aren't, there's private schools, there's voucher schools, homeschool, all the things. It's chaos as a parent of young kids trying to find the right school and then figure out how to enroll them. Oh, and the virtual schools, right? So there's so many things to navigate. So we have some guides for all that stuff too, because you know, like even if this school is a perfect fit, it's confusing for a parent to figure out how to make that choice, and so as much of that support as we can give them is helpful. I think those are the main things I wanted to touch on. I know that we'll just sort of follow up at some point. You know, I didn't want to go too deep into like a training. I know you have trainings. I'm not trying to be a commercial because I'm not really like advertising anything that costs. It's all just stuff that we have, and we have it here for you. And I also wanted to just explain a little more about that relationship with your authorizer. They're very much still making all the decisions. I'm just here to sort of help, you know, explain like, all right, so we're gonna do our annual report next month. So all that data that you just pulled together is basically just gonna get like dropped in there. Your financials get dropped in there. The Waukesha County will calculate if they've spent any of their own money on authorizing the charter school, and then that just sort of goes off to the state. So there's not like a lot to it. Each year, at the end of the year, we'll just kind of jot down a summary of like, yep, we've met all the goals. And then as we approach the end of your contract period, then we'll go through like a proper renewal where we just sort of say, okay, how did we do over the you know, is it 5 years? I should, yeah, it is, right? I just had a panic of like, cause your first one was 3 years.
Right.
It's so
Right.
odd, yeah. So your 5 years, and then are there any requests for like changes of the contract, and then is there any big developments your school will be, you know, exploring into for the next 5 years? So that's kind of the structure of their renewal. So I'm just sort of like holding their hand, and then they make the decisions. But, yeah, I think we're in good shape, and we're just trying to make everything really transparent. So if you ever have questions, about how they're doing, you know, like we can sort of manage it in both directions too, I think. That, you know, because they're new, you know, you're the ones who are doing this every day, so you're the ones who have the data, you have the reports and stuff, and they're there as the accountability piece. And so we'll just kind of all navigate and learn together is sort of the approach we're taking. Any questions? I mean, I could, any from you all, from Margaret, or even, I don't know if we're allowed to have public questions too at this point, but we're here to help.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Great.
you. Thank you very much.
Good. Oh, and I
Appreciate
didn't
you being
pass
here.
this one down, so here, that's just like, there's a QR code on top and then our website stuff on the bottom, so, and I think our phone number too, so you can get a hold of us.
All
Do
those
things.
things. Thank you so much.
And then Margaret, and you're collecting stats
Yes,
for
thank
me.
you.
Years.
Thanks.
I'll leave these out in case somebody wants.
Thank you very much. And we are now moving on to the One Campus project update. So Margaret, anything to share there?
Yes, a couple things to update you all on. I don't know where to start. So, we've moved forward with Excel Engineering, and the administrative team met with designers, engineers from Excel, and discussed the programming study that we had started with them. I guess it's almost a year ago now. So we really dug down into that and fine-tuned that. We've taken an approach of having a full K-12 build be our optimal choice and our ultimate goal. But if we do need to do the project in phases, I've asked them to design phase 1 as a K-8 institution or building so that we can optimize enrollment, because the K-8 in a new location will allow for another section of first, and kindergarten, as well as another section of fifth and another section of sixth. And therefore, putting K-8 in a new location first is the most advantageous for growth, which equates to income. And then we would actually move 9th through 12th to East and repurpose the East campus as our high school until a phase 2, 9th through 12th classroom addition could be added to the structure. So again, K to 12 full build is our ultimate goal, but if the project needs to be done in phases due to financial capabilities, then it would be a K-8 phase 1 and a 9 through 12 phase 2. And so they are fine-tuning based on our input and our conversations and our discussion of kind of where we want certain things within a building, and they're going kind of back to the drawing board with that phase 1, phase 2 perspective. Phase 3, by the way, would be an auditorium, fine arts center, if we get to the point of potentially doing that as well. So that is with an update on our work with Excel Engineering. I've also pursued legal counsel, as you know, through our conversations with Baird, which will be our bond underwriting firm. We need legal counsel to finalize our engagement with them. And so Mrs. Scari from the business office and I, as well as parent volunteer John Wu, had interviews, if you will, with Linda Templin from Hush Blackwell and Andrew Price from Reinhardt. We followed up with Linda Templin and Hush Blackwell after the three of us were encouraged by our initial conversation with her, and we met a few other members of her team. So comes down to hourly rate, and there are people on her team who don't have as high an hourly rate as she does. So we met the person who would lead kind of our project and work with us most closely. Also, we met the components of their firm or their team who would counsel us on property acquisition and construction interactions. And Linda and her team is the legal counsel that I would like to pursue and engage to assist us on this one campus project. So we can kind of discuss that as need be. The other piece to note is, if you recall, our approved budget from last month has funds designated for upfront costs to this project. And I've confirmed that there will be no cost or fees due to Catalyst until the completion of the project. But we will have those legal fees to engage with Baird and to pursue property acquisition. And then the contract for Excel, I just signed and returned to them, and their costs that are needed up front would fall within that $200,000 that we have designated for these initial costs. When we are in closed session, we can talk in more detail about ways that we can establish legal coverage to reimburse those expenses once we have the bond financing in place. Tomorrow, the Baird team is coming to campus to have a tour of West and have a tour of East, and just have a kind of an initial conversation about who we are and our mission and what we do, and they'll get a feel for that as they begin to start the process for us of that. So we'll host them tomorrow, and then moving forward from that, they'll give me next steps and I'll know a little better where to go from there. But the most important part is for me to secure the legal counsel that we need to finalize our engagement with them. So are there any questions about my desire to move forward with Linda Templin? She comes highly recommended by Catalyst. And like I said, in our conversations with her, including John Woo, who has some wisdom in the financial world, we feel really confident and comfortable with her and her team.
No questions? Karen, do you have any questions about the legal?
Not at this time.
Not this time? Okay, yeah, I think that decision obviously is a decision that falls within operations, and I'm comfortable, especially with John Woo having been involved. He has a lot of experience in this, and being able to provide you with some guidance. I think you should definitely go with who I think is the right fit. So that's
Great. I will move forward with contracting or agreeing, engaging with Linda's group at Hush Blackwell.
great. I have just one question of clarification on the Excel. When we were talking about the programming study and phasing, etc. When we were talking about if we had to phase it and do a K-8, you said it would enable us to add, how many, you said another section of fifth? What were they?
Kindergarten and first
Kindergarten first?
would go from 3 sections to 4, and then 5th and 6th are currently only at 2 sections because we've run out of classrooms, so we would be able to grow them to 3 sections. And the move from here to East for 9th through 12th will also give us rooms to expand the numbers in the high school. But I think in recent conversations that we've had, the idea of maximizing enrollment as quickly as possible within the confines of what we can build for ourselves, and looking at the numbers and the interest and the wait list, it makes the most sense to maximize K-8 and grow 9th through 12th exponentially from there.
That makes a lot of sense, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll know more once we get down the path of the financing and knowing what we can to have a better idea of that, hopefully by early next year, right? Ish, I don't know what they've told you, but this is all new to all of us, so
Yeah.
we're trying to
It's hard to
navigate
say
this, yeah,
because it's hard
yeah.
to, everything is a little bit develops as we go, and to put we will know this by this
Right.
is I
It's
wouldn't
hard to
wanna
do.
commit to something I can't follow through on.
No, agree. Great, any other questions, or? How about you, Tom?
This all sounds good. I concur with the consensus here. I think you're smart, Margaret, to, stay close on who's billing what and at what rate, and because billable hours can spiral out of control pretty quickly. So glad to know you're on the ball with that and, paying close attention to it. This all makes sense.
I forgot to add, and thank you for bringing it back to my mind, Linda Templin also agreed to cap her cost.
Beauty.
Yep.
At $11 an hour.
Well, not quite. We were negotiating, but we're not negotiating that well.
No, it all sounds good to me.
Great.
Okay,
That's all I have.
okay.
A lot, but that's it.
Yeah, no, that's great, it's all good. So moving on to, we have 2 action items this evening, and the first one is actually to appoint our newest board member, Stacy Wren, welcome. Her first meeting tonight. We are going to vote on whether to vote her on as our secretary, our board secretary, and I just wanted to, from our bylaws, just to kind of give everyone an idea of what the duties are of the secretary. She's already well aware of all this, so, but keeping an accurate meeting minutes, taking minutes and putting them into board docs, obviously that is then, seen by the board first and the public, and also noticing all of our meetings, according to our bylaws and the Wisconsin open meetings laws. And then also, she will also be, as the secretary, the official custodian of the records, meaning everything that's shared in the SharePoint drive and making sure everything that we need is there and documented. So that's it in a nutshell. But we're very excited to have Stacy on board, and at this time, would someone like to make a motion to approve Stacy Wren as the LCCA board secretary?
So moved.
So moved. Tom? Second?
Yep.
Second, okay. Any discussion or questions before we take a vote? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Then I think we're ready to take a vote. It has been moved and seconded to appoint Stacy Wren as the LCCA board secretary. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and we're moving on to the next action item, which is the approval of 1-year lease extensions at both our east and west campuses.
Right, thank you. So, our leases are coming to a close at both east and west, but our leases have the option to extend. And in order to extend beyond June 30th of 2024, I need to notify our landlords at both west and east of our desire to utilize those extension options by January 1st of 2024. So I'm asking for board approval to move forward in communicating our intention to Bridge Church to continue on here at this west location for another year, meaning the 2024-2025 school year. And I'd also like to communicate to Tadish, why am I forgetting? Tadish Mullen, who is our landlord at East Campus, that we'd like to exercise our extension option there as well for the same 1-year term.
Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion, if that's okay. I'll just make the motion. The motion is to exercise LCCA's right to sign 1-year lease extensions at both east and west campuses for the 2024-2025 school year. Is there a second? Second. Stacy? Any discussion or questions about this? Pretty straightforward. Okay. All right, so it's been moved and seconded to approve and exercise LCCA's right to sign the one-year lease extensions at both East and West campuses for the 24-25 school year. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. All right, and the last thing on our board agenda tonight, prior to our closed session, is our mini board training session that we've started doing. So, wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to take a look at my notes here. So, I just wanted to use this opportunity to share a little bit of what I learned. I had the good fortune of being able to go to Washington, D.C. and attend this fundraising conference a couple weeks ago. And it was extremely informative, and I think a lot of what I learned is actually going to be the work of the school and of the advancement officer. However, because the board will always play a large role in fundraising, I think it's a good thing for all of us to really understand sort of what goes into fundraising. I did not share all of my notes, like, actually I might have, but I didn't want to bring it all up tonight because it's a lot. But a couple things, and I'll just kind of go through some of the highlights here, and I would love to, get your reaction, any questions or discussion about it. But some of the major or bigger rules of thumb that they talked about which I thought were interesting. Donors give to people. They like what LCCA, they love our mission, but it's really important that we develop personal relationships with our donors, because that ultimately is what gets people to give, and they want to give to people. So I thought that was a good point. Also, fundraising, really you want to think about it as matchmaking. There are people out there that want to give, and foundations out there that need to give. So it's really making those connections and getting them to understand why is it that we are a good match, because that letting them know about our mission and understanding their philanthropic philosophy and why it's a good fit. So it's a good way to look at it. And then the other important thing is that we need to be constantly growing our pipeline of donors. We have some very generous donors right now. However, those people may move, they aren't necessarily always going to be there, so you have to constantly be feeding that pipeline. So there are different strategies. There's kind of a whole strategy for how you reach people out there that may not even know about LCCA, and then you have a different strategy and stewardship for fostering existing donors, and how some of those donors may become some of your major donors down the road if you do it well. So it's that's the part where the board comes in, is that stewardship piece and really relationship building and fostering that. So fundraising works by asking again and again, and personalizing communication as much as we can is essential, and really makes it more effective and will bring better results that way if it's more personal. And then just keeping in mind that all people within our organization, the board, staff, teachers, everybody, are really fundraisers for the school. Every interaction we have with the public is an opportunity to not only encourage, perhaps it's you're doing public relations, getting people to come to the school and enroll their children, but also potentially maybe a donor wanting to help support our mission. And so thinking of every interaction you have and having that elevator speech ready, and really knowing our mission by heart, and what are our goals, what's our vision, and being able to have those types of conversations off the cuff are really important, and something we'll need to think about, especially as we move towards building our one campus building and everything that goes with that. So we've got, as a board, we have some work to do in terms of figuring out, okay, what are the key messages, and being comfortable with having those conversations with people. So, and then just wanted to share, I thought it was really interesting. I talked a little bit about how you find new donors, and the buzzword in fundraising industry is prospecting. So it's how do you prospect and find those donors. And interestingly, I was surprised, the number one donation driver in the nonprofit space is direct mail, which I was really surprised by that. Me I had no idea that was such a, I thought it was kind of something that just maybe older people did. Maybe, but it's not. I mean, it's apparently it's very effective. If done, correctly, it's very effective. So that's something that, we may need to, obviously, this operations would have to decide what's possible, but something to think about. And then also the stewardship piece, in terms of caring and feeding our existing donors with information and really being able to, as Margaret said, we're marketing, we have sort of a whole separate marketing campaign just for fundraising, because every donor likes to receive information differently. So some people may want regular communication, and updates, and they want to know, how is their money making a difference, and so it's important not just to reach out to people and ask for money. It's how okay, let's report back and say, look what your gift is doing, and really getting the donor involved and engaged, and then finding ways to not only meet with them, but bring them into the school and come to our events, and there's ways to foster those relationships, which is very, very important. So feeding them a steady stream of information is very important. And then lastly, another full day was spent on grant writing and looking, how do we find foundations to apply for grants, and how does that all work? And that's a whole nother day of information that I learned, but it's very it's interesting, because just a couple of fundamentals I learned about foundations. Unlike individual donors, foundations generally like to be updated on. So individual donors usually like to know what's going on, and they want to be updated on how their money's making a difference. Foundations just want the facts. They don't want as much touchy-feely communication from us. Whereas and then there are two types of foundations. There are grant makers and grant takers. So that's interesting, because I didn't really understand that until I went to this, because you'll hear something of the Heritage Foundation or whatever it may be. They're actually fundraising machines, and they are out there making, trying to raise money for their own foundation, which then they use for programs and various things, that whatever it is that their mission is. So there's a distinction there, and we need to know, which ones are the grant makers and which are the grant takers. And so researching that and finding that out, and what their deadlines are, and that's something that one person at the school will not be able to do all of this. So the board is going to have to help the best we can, in terms of both the helping with stewardship, but also with grant writing and whatever we can do to help try and get some grants. So
back to the question though, when you asked for more clarity on the responsibilities of a director of advancement and donor relations, all that.
Yeah, that's
all that.
All that.
Yeah, you should have gone first, and then
I know, right? And that is what this person will be doing for the most part, and it's most nonprofits have a dozen people working in development. I mean, there's 4 people just doing data entry, and it's to do it right and to do it well. That's really what you need. But obviously, we're never going to be at that level. But having at least one person on staff, huge. And not only that, but to be able to help with fundraising events that we're having, and things like that would be really helpful. So, any questions about that? I hope that was helpful. I don't know.
I think you got a lot of great information.
Yeah, it was. Yep, very, very much so. So I will help and assist as much as you would like us to in this area, until you can get someone on board, and then figure out how we can work in tandem with that person and support each other, because fundraising is going to be a big deal for us. We need to raise a lot of money for this one campus. Right. Thanks. Tom, any questions on that?
I can't get over the direct mail stat.
I know.
It doesn't align with anything that we're seeing on the marketing side
Really?
for us. And it just makes me wonder. I can't imagine Gen Z is open up their mailboxes and getting direct mail and deciding that I see no stats to support. I'm not questioning this, but I'm questioning this. I just think it's weird. I just think it doesn't jive. So, I'm wondering, is it just direct mail respondents are older? I don't know.
It's possible, and maybe as time goes on, it'll be less and less of the money. Yeah, right. But that's the thing. thing, we gotta, you know, it's, you gotta kinda try, that's the thing with fundraising, you gotta test and see what works best.
Right.
You gotta,
Yep.
so this, I don't see why we wouldn't try it and
Sure.
see what kind of response we get, and then, and do that in tandem with online fundraising and reaching more of the younger crowds through social media, et cetera, so. Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Okay, at this point, we are going to be moving into closed session, so I would like to make a motion to approve to go into closed session for Wisconsin State Statute 19.851E to discuss the purchasing of public properties in which competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Second to the motion? Second. Any discussion? All in favor of moving into closed session, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. We are now in closed session. Thank you everyone for coming this evening.
Thank you, Sarah.